Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
Good evening and welcome to Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am Dave Scott, and we're here on the Friday night edition with our Keith Andrews and the ET Connection. So get your questions ready because we're going to be firing it off to Keith here momentarily. But first, we get to say hello to each and every one of you. We have Race Fan in the gold medal position, Road Flare with a silver, Tim Mothman and his goatee sharing a bronze medal. Hi there, Necessary Dialogue, Kitty Cattywhack, and Robert Lamoth, good to see you. Road Flare, Fast Hemi, Lee the Bee, how y'all doing? T-Bone, my man, has returned. T-Bone will be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the left of the studio, if you don't mind. To the left of the studio. Good to have you back, T-Bone. Thank you for joining us. Deanna Ann, thank you for coming on in. Mama Catherine, mwah, I love you, my dear. I hope you had a wonderful day. And I hope you have a wonderful time enjoying this show tonight. Frankie B, good to see you. Little Cam over on YouTube. Yep, getting ready for our Keith Andrews. He bench pressed 685 pounds 27 times in under 3 minutes. He's jacked for tonight's show. Scrolling on down, we say hello to Eternity Eternal. Doug Shelby is here. The Doug Shelby has arrived, which means we can officially start this show. Kurt W75 is here. And number 33 in your program, starting in goal tonight from Stockholm, Sweden, Lars Jonsson. Philip Blair, good to see you. Philip Blair will be signing autographs after the show as well. Line up to the right of the studio, if you don't mind, to the right of the studio. Our good friend Cosmic Joe, thanks for coming on in as we continue on with our roll call. There's Fast Hemi. Good to see you. Little Timmy James. How you doing, buddy? Good show tonight. Very good show. Javier, Cryptid 559. How you doing, brother? Hope you're having a good night. Are you going to come to Vegas with us? Let me know. All right. Moving on. J True Seeker. Corey, thanks for coming on in. Laura Lobbs, good to see you. SJ, Cat's Tongue. Jeff Steve Garvey is here. He'll hit a home run for you. Moving on down, we got Bombshell Bomber. And who's next? Dead Fish, nice to see you. Deidre, our resident hippie, wearing Birkenstocks in all sorts of temperatures. Good to see you, Deidre. Karen and the Woo Train, thanks for coming on in. Hi there in the studio. Good to see you, guy. And Joanne, how are you? Joanne giving a yippee. Yippee, Dave's here. Yippee. Fapperoony, how are you? And Marty Burback. Xanos, good to see you both. Lotus Spider, thanks for coming on in. There's Dave Tiger Williams. He'll drop the gloves for you. And, yeah. Bob Thorson has joined us, everybody. Give him a round of applause. We're caught up. I don't know what to do. We're caught up. I guess we just sit here and wait. Walter Kochabinski, thanks for joining us. Mm-hmm. I mean, people know I do roll call at this time, man. There's Area 53 right there. He's summoning in the UFOs as we speak. All right, let's get the radio side going. Hello and welcome to the radio and podcast side of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott, and we have our Keith Andrews and the ET Connection coming up here momentarily. But first, we are in roll call on our YouTube channel, so we're just going to welcome some people in, including What in Tarnation? What in Tarnation? How are you? Love that name. Jerry Carter, how are you? Thanks for joining us. Oh, the Doug Shelby's turning into Area 53 as well. Wow. Major Lee, good morning. Are you ready to get pissed off this morning? Are you ready? Oh, Major Lee. You make me laugh. You piss me off, but you make me laugh. All right. Where are we here? Reminder, the super chat is open. It's a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. Joe, thank you for kicking things off tonight. Greatly appreciate your love. And let's see here. Do me a favor, everybody. Throw those horns up. Let's rock. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out, Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our streaming as well. You can follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. We got a power show of fun tonight. Our Keith Andrews and the ET Connection is about to go down, where we take audience questions all night long. If you're in our YouTube chat, on X, or any of our social media platforms, we're going to have some fun with Keith. Then in hour number 3, Swamp Dweller is here with another spooky story. Follow that up. Big Lee, the extra small one, will join us for the Cryptid Report. It is that time of the month again as we say hello to one of our resident contributors here every month, our Keith Andrews and the ET Connection. Now, Keith is a lifelong experiencer who now helps counsel those who have had experiences on their own. Why does he do it? Well, he's not a researcher. He doesn't care about the UFO climate right now. He doesn't care about what the government says. All of his experiences are natural. They are what he has learned through his contact experiences. And now he helps people who've had their own understand what has happened to them. Here's our Keith Andrews. It's always good to have you on Spaced Out Radio, my friend. How are you?
Quite well, thanks. Really appreciate it there, Dave. Yeah, I was just thinking about it. And it looks like... Uh-oh.
We have a little bit of a delay with you, Keith, in your speaking. I don't know if you're here with us, but there seems to be a couple second delay on that, but that's okay. I'll work around that. But how you been doing lately?
Well, been a lot of wake up calls going on, where my whole connection with this planet is, shall we say, adjusting. But I'm looking at the climate of the world.
What do you mean by that?
Well, finding out really where you sit with other people. I don't mean you're the audience here. These guys are great. It's really hard for me to believe that we're pushing 10 years here together.
Right.
But outside of here, my connection to the world is, shall we say, sketchy at best. So that
Did you run into trouble with the wrong people? Is that what it is? Did you join a gang or something?
Yeah, no, I think we can bypass that. No, run into the wrong people, probably. But gang, certainly not. The way I look at it is real simple. Gangs are simply groups of people looking for something in common to be able to cope. But I'm seeing this around the world, and when I mean around the world, I don't mean just on Earth.
So what's happening with the aliens? What's got you stressed about that?
The amount of misinformation that quite literally the so-called leaders and people in the know are passing on about what's going on. Like I've been hearing in YouTube, in Facebook, and just by people in general, saying that these guys, and I'm not going to give names, so we're just not going to go there, but the very big names are saying they're bracing for an alien attack. And I'm like, how can people claiming to be in the know even consider that as a functional possibility? I mean, I may be wrong. Don't get me wrong. Don't misunderstand me. Pray I'm not. Okay. But the number of people that I hear still propagating the fact that there is some sort of a massive showing going to happen, they're all of a sudden going to show up and say, hey, your entire society is built on a misconception. I just, from my way of looking at it, this goes so far outside their doctrine and so far outside the rationality of functional cognition. I'm looking at it going, the more I hear, the more I'm sitting there going, how can you possibly be listening to this kind of stuff? Like, how can you, never mind listening to it, I understand that. But when you're taking people that are very big named, and they're still talking about this eventual invasion that we're going to defend ourselves with or from, I can see a very big problem with that perception. Not the least of which is I found out today that human scientists have only just figured out that auditory waves, that sound waves, have a physical mass. Now, to me, this is, shall we say, old news, that I knew about it a decade ago, and they're just telling you now. And no, I am not, like you said, Dave, I don't research. I do not bother going and looking at what other people have reported, per se. But you still hear things. And this is why I tell people, if you've got a question, absolutely ask it. Even if it sounds like a stupid question, odds are somebody else is sitting in the audience or listening after the fact that's got the exact same question.
Keith, why do you think, or should I rephrase that? Where do you think this threat narrative of the alien invasion comes from? Because I heard it too. We've called it out many a times on this show about the threat narrative. The United States government seems to be the only one talking about this threat narrative. No other government is. What do you think the purpose of it is?
No, but the common populace are. It boils down to this. If you can keep people afraid, one of two things happens. They're easier to control, or they're easier to bamboozle. And when you take a look at the common populace that's pushing out this issue of, oh, they're buying into it that we're going to be invaded, it gives them an excuse not to look in the mirror. And I call it an excuse. I did it myself. Okay, I've looked for reasons why I didn't have to cope. That didn't work out as well, as well as I would have liked. But governmental issue. Now, like I said, I don't follow the news at all. Like, I hear about it periodically. Right, just because, let's face it, 75% or better of what's on Facebook is people regurgitating the war and the war agenda. Whether they pick Earth itself or somebody else. Whether it's, oh, this country is going to war, that country is going to war, or we're going to be invaded by aliens, or better yet, by the ancient races from inner Earth. I just this is one of the reasons why I don't deal with people a lot, aside from the ones that approach me.
I find it very interesting, my man, because I don't think there's an alien invasion coming. I don't think that there is anything that is going to harm humanity over the next little bit outside of ourselves, but anything from space or any type like that, I don't see that happening. The people that I talk to claim that it's not happening. So, I mean, it's just a big game that's being played, and I don't think any of us should put too much stock into it. That's for sure.
No, I absolutely agree with you there. I mean, I know full well if you don't have answers, if you're asking questions and you don't have answers, your mind will fill in the blanks. And that you being the royal you, not you specifically.
Right.
This is why I tell people, if you've got a question, ask. I likely won't give you the answer you're expecting. Okay, certainly not likely to give you one that everybody else has agreed with. But I will be honest with you. With all the things I see going on, I still look at it going 95% of the population are decent people, and honestly trying to help each other. Unfortunately, what I'm seeing posted comes from that other 5 to 10%. And that becomes a problem.
It does happen.
The really ironic part, is I get the same thing from the offworlders, where, intriguingly enough, they're more afraid of humans than we are of them.
Well, can you blame them? I mean, isn't that the reason why we're not allowed into the Galactic Federation?
Actually, no, the reason for that is much simpler. Every member of the Consortium, every member species of the Consortium has a one world government. Now, let us be clear, a one world government does not mean one person running the world. Okay, because somebody living in the tropics hasn't got a clue what the dangers or what the benefits are of living in the Arctic. You've got to have communication. This world doesn't have it. That is what's stopping the inclusion.
Right. With the aliens being where they are on this planet, whether it's inside mountains, whether it's in the ocean, whether it's camouflaged in the sky, hiding in different dimensions, living on the dark side of the moon, how close are they to any type of movement to taking over disclosure?
Well, they could be further away, but I'm not sure how they manage it. I mean, manage getting further away. See, they've got no interest in disclosure. disclosure from a societal standpoint is just plain forbidden. And unlike human, and it's not just humans, by the way, there are many other species that have the same argument going on. But the consortium will not do disclosure for you. Okay, because if they do, there's no prep work for it, and the entire base of your society will collapse overnight into absolute chaos, bedlam, and loss of life like you would not believe. It'll make the bubonic plague look like a mild cold. And yes, that sounds like I'm fear mongering. I don't call it fear mongering when you look at it going, well, that's the outcome. It's kind of like going, oh, the Titanic's going to sink after the iceberg hit it. Is that fear mongering or just simply you're pretty much hooked? But the thing is, go ahead.
Well, I was going to ask you, you know, in the perfect disclosure world, what would the ETs want?
Number one, for mankind as a civilization to work towards peace on a unilateral level, to open the communication lines regardless of the backgrounds, okay, and start showing that they're interested in protecting their civilization and, of all things, the planet they actually live on. And like I said, humans are not the only ones that did this. Okay. That'd be first and foremost. Then there's this other neat little, and I don't know if this is the majority thing, but I hear it often and I have to worry about it, where humans have this brilliant idea of going, let's shoot at them first and then ask if they're friendly. I don't know about you, but if somebody opens fire on me, I'm just not in the friendly mood anymore.
I don't know. I mean, I understand the violence part of that. I want to get away from the violence part of everything because that's not what I want this show to be about. So I'm going to be greedy there for a moment, Keith. But
that's no problem.
The idea that we aren't alone here, that they are visiting us, that they are coming in and out as they please. Are most of the species coming here on scientific missions, or are they here for a vacation? Are they here out of curiosity because they picked up a signal? What do you think it is?
The majority are here for scientific reasons. Scientific, and we can even count scientific as xenosocioeconomic evolution. Okay, the Martokians, for instance, who live on Mars, or more to the point, in Mars, they come here. They bring their kids here, not for a vacation, but to study human evolution. The humans are going down the same road the Martokians went down a long time ago. Okay. Now, Mars, as you know it, is not, I mean, it's barren on the surface, absolutely. But what you don't know is civilization was moved underground. In your case, you may well know.
Very true. Very true. So with that being said, I mean, you talk to many people who've been contacted or abducted in one way or another.
Yes.
The majority of them will say that their contact has been peaceful. It's been something of an educational experience for their life. It's been a very, very unique situation that they've learned, maybe had downloads, maybe they've, become more spiritually inclined. I mean, that's what I hear from a lot of contactees. What about yourself?
Ultimately, I get a lot more that are, if you will, confused. When we get through it, they come back to that same issue of it being a rather eye-opening experience on a positive overall level. Taking into consideration the shock of the abduction in the first place. That can be disconcerting at best. But once they get to understand what is actually going on, and we point out, and when I say we, I mean they come to the conclusion at the same time that their experience or the way they were being treated wasn't due to malice so much as, if you will, ignorance on the part of the offworlders. They didn't realize what people were going through. And this is one of the biggest conversations I end up with a lot of these people. I mean, you take a look at the vegans. Okay. Vegans, they have a bad habit of hurting people during examination because of the simple fact that vegans don't have a pain center, meaning they do not feel pain at all. There's no word for it in their world. Thing with a vegan is you can take his arm off, and the only reason he knows it's gone is because he can no longer pick something up on that side of the body.
I find it interesting. All over the place. And trying to figure out what is actually going on is the hard part, because there is a lot of games going on.
Oh, yeah. Well, humans and offworlders, as well as ancient races, all have the same thing in common. Okay? They're all striving to figure out how all of this fits together. Now, humans, on the whole, have an ability the other races don't have. And that is the ability to manipulate at will what we call zero-point energy, aka bend reality. But most humans haven't figured out that can be done for good or for bad. But it's up to you what you do with it.
All right, let's get a couple questions in from our audience here. Start with in the studio. Last time you were on, you said Vulcans exist and Titan was a planet. When Vulcans are characters and Titan is a moon of Jupiter. What do you mean by that?
Well, number one, Vulcan, and I understand, I accidentally found this years ago. NASA knows about it. Vulcan itself is a planet inside the sun's corona, or the sun's photosphere, outer layer, photosphere. Okay. Vulcans are a clear crystalline race. They are not green men that walk around and travel on the USS Enterprise. Vulcans are a crystalline race. Okay. They're also, by the way, tri-limbed. In other words, 3 legs, 3 arms. But that's the first thing. As far as Titan goes, Titan is, I agree, Titan is it's a moon of Jupiter. No, Titan, I believe, is around Saturn. Okay, doesn't mean there isn't a station on it. It's not what humans classify as a planet. But I'm still trying to figure out if humans have figured out what a planet is, because they keep modifying things for their own ease of classification. Maybe.
We got 30 seconds to go. 30 seconds to go before the break, Keith. So I'm going to get you to finish up what you have to say.
What we got to realize is that the human genome, the bipedal configuration, is one of the least effective configurations, and life doesn't always look like it's even humanoid, and that's the thing that we got to get past.
All right, Keith, I'm going to let you leave it right there, because we are going to head on off to break here at the bottom of the hour. It's our Keith Andrews and the ET Connection continuing on Spaced Out Radio. And when we return, more audience questions about the weird and strange when it comes to contact with the ETs. Stay tuned, everybody. Spaced Out Radio continues right after this. All right, Keith, we're clear.
Absolutely.
Fun times.
Last week I had an absolute disaster at my house. My coffee pot, after God knows how many years, died on me.
Oh, no.
You
You
know?
don't have a microphone?
No, 3 days ago I went and bought another one. 3 days after it died, I went and bought a new coffee pot.
Oh.
Mind you, I was stunned. I went in to buy a coffee pot. I got one for $28, but I could have bought a coffee pot for $150. And I'm like, why would I even consider that? You know?
Right? What are you thinking, Keith?
Well, I'm thinking for that it should be able to make itself.
You would think.
You know. But I'm still very much of the opinion that if I keep it simple, it works out quite well.
That's the key. That's the key. All right. Who's jumped in here? Mel WD40, you better be lubing us up after being late because this show's off to a rough start. Mama Catherine says, greetings, Art Keith. Good to see you. Matthew Goodka, thanks for coming on in. Little Cam, look at that. Little Cam with a nice super chat. Thank you, buddy. Yeah. That's what we get for putting you through those workouts daily. I'm 4 days without Tim Hortons.
Oh, that's depressing.
Tell me about it. I like Tim Hortons. Little Timmy James, you can have some of this hair if you want. You know I got a bag of it back here. It's really weird. I've been waking up recently without being hungry in the morning. I just haven't gone.
Well, that's always convenient.
Yeah.
It's always nice waking up not hungry.
Yeah. So that's what I've been doing.
Yeah, I can't complain that we can't complain too much about that.
Right?
You know, the nice part is if you're waking up not hungry, it does kind of indicate, it does kind of indicate that you're on the right track to being healthy.
Trying. Gorgeous Kim Jellin, how's those teeth tonight? She's got gorgeous teeth. Hillbilly Herb, how are you? I'm going to see Gorgeous Kim Jellin in a few weeks at UFOCon. That's going to be awesome. Hi, Sierra. Get your questions in capital letters for our Keith Andrews. I do have a hair bag. It's right here. See? My old hair. There it is. My old hair. And believe it or not, it's still silky smooth. It really is. Still feels good. Here we go, the second half hour of Spaced Out Radio. My name is Dave Scott. We always appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Reminder to all of you that if you missed portions of this show or others, you can always check out our free archives on YouTube or any major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. We have our Keith Andrews and the ET Connection continuing on right here. Keith, how you doing?
Not bad at all. Glad to be here and really happy with the turnout we got here.
It's very good. Our audience is always good. And you know what? We're glad to have them participating in our YouTube side and on our X side and our radio side. So lots of people always tuning you in, which is nice.
It is. Yeah, it's funny. I actually get more support here than I do in real life, which sounds bad, but it's pretty accurate.
Well, you ready for some of their questions?
Absolutely.
All right, let's bring it on. Let's start off with super crazy. Do you think that one day humans will invade other planets, take possession, and kill all the inhabitants?
Not a prayer. By the time they get to that, well, there is a possibility of it. Hopefully, mankind will have evolved beyond that necessity. See, that's very primitive thinking, and most races that get to that level have evolved beyond that kind of primitive thinking. At this point, if you were to take the current rendition of humanity and drop them onto another planet, you can virtually bet your bottom dollar they'd make that attempt.
I also believe that, and correct me if I'm wrong, the aliens aren't really scared of our weaponry, are they?
No. Our weaponry, to say the least, is extremely primitive. What they're worried about is mankind's inner ability. Got nothing to do with technology.
Let's go to In the Studio. What does the consortium mean?
A consortium boils down to an amalgamation of a whole pile of different species. That's the best way I can put it. I mean, I could look it up in a dictionary, but in the human translation boils down to that where the consortium would be essentially the offworld rendition of the UN. Whole bunch of different civilizations, whole bunch of different communities that are literally working on one platform to try and get along. That's why they've got rules that apply inside the common areas and other ones that are deferred to on the actual planets of given members. I mean, you think about it. Their doctrine dictates that member worlds can govern themselves, and that holds on their own planet, but not in the common grounds, like in the conduits between different planets. You've got to follow consortium rules, and they do not. And like when they start dealing with things like interspecies conflicts, they're resolved pretty quickly, and you really don't want these guys to solve your problem. This idea of overkill doesn't apply.
Let's go to.
So,
go ahead, please. Sorry, Keith.
So when you've got a conflict between different species, the consortium does not go, which one of you has the better argument? It's which one of you is on the aggressive and which one of you is defending your home. If you're defending your home, you're safe. Use whatever means necessary. If you're attacking another planet, well, the punishment is simple. The consortium goes to your home world, to your home system, and literally blows up the planet that houses your primary government, your secondary, and your tertiary governments. Okay? Sometimes, on very rare occasion, this is all on one planet. But they don't bother with the idea of, we can't fire because there's this ceremony going on. They just go, all of these people are going. And the reason for it is simple. Those people put one way or the other, they either elected or permitted the people to take the problem leaders to take over. So instead of trying to negotiate it, they just wipe it off the map and start over. Because let's face it, any one species in the consortium's eyes is no better than the next. It's not worth more than anybody else. And this is one of the reasons why I say, and why I've been told, that they do not look at humans as members of the consortium at this point, because of the fact humans don't get along with humans. As a matter of fact, right now, mankind, and from a xeno-socioeconomic standpoint, what humans are doing to themselves is pushing them further outside the reach of the consortium, as far as the inclusion in the consortium, than they already were. Now, this can be changed, but it's going to take effort.
What kind of effort?
It's going to take the common populace stepping back and going, okay, yes, you're different than I am, but that doesn't make you better or worse. You may have a skill that's better than mine. Like, let's face it, when you and I look at each other there, Dave, just to be specific, you know more about cars than I can ever hope to hold together. Okay? It's just one of these things. If I want to talk to somebody about whether a vehicle's good, of the people I know, I'd go and talk to you before I talk to somebody like me.
Right.
I guess. But there's not a single species that is better or more valuable than the next. There are ones that have better strengths in certain areas.
Let's move to another question. Let's go over to Philip, who is asking, are any of the ETs helping us learn peace?
Absolutely. Or at least making the effort. Strazazians, which are your 7.5 to 8.5 foot reptilians, are actually allies, and they are doing their best to help humans realize that, number one, peace is not a cessation of war. Peace is something that is found within. these guys understand. They couch most of it in the hand of either self-respect or respect towards others, depending on where you feel more comfortable as an individual. The Pleiadians, now the Pleiadians you'll never find on Earth. A purebred you'll never find on Earth. They can't survive it. But the hybrids do teach that whether you, no matter where you are on Earth, if you happen to be human, your metabolic rate and your healing rate is essentially the same. Okay, I saw a picture one day, and this wasn't actually from them, but showed a whole pile of skeletons lined up together. Right, they all look identical. And underneath them, it listed off the different types of people. Well, aliens know, for instance, the Orions don't fight anymore. They gamble like there is no tomorrow. But they have figured out the gaming, the gaming as in your casino games and gambling and what have you, is a viable competition that doesn't have to result in bloodshed. But that's because they use definitive rules that apply to everybody. And this is what they keep trying to tell humans. If your rules apply to everybody in the same situation, you won't have the wars. But don't kid yourself. Every species I know of, if you go back far enough, went through the same kinds of conflicts mankind is going through now. I will tell you, where it comes to the Reptilians, they came to an interesting conclusion when they got here centuries back. They found Earth to be a really weird planet because the plants weren't trying to kill them. We walk through the forest and there's no problem. They walk through the forest and some tree's going to try and eat them. Yes, I know that sounds dangerous. But they are trying to help people realize that whether you're dealing with animals, people, minerals, doesn't matter. They're all different life forms. And they all interact together. Once humans can figure out that that's the way it is, they will get along a lot better. It's basically the general consensus.
All right, let's move on to another question. Let's go to Super Crazy here. Does the average age... Hold on. Too many A's in a row. Does an average alien citizen on an advanced planet have access to a spacecraft to go sightseeing on Earth for the weekend?
Well, given that you're talking an advanced civilization, they're kind of as common as cars are on Earth. But as far as going to another planet, they can go to other planets, but there are some that they are told, these are off limits. Okay, not the least of which is Earth. Okay, Earth is protected in as much as Earth is at that turning point of whether or not they're going to blow themselves back into the Stone Age or find global peace. So the commoner of the off-worlders doesn't have free go-ahead to go in and poke around just to see what it's like. However, if they want to go to a place like Zeta Reticuli, then they don't have a problem. Go ahead. Understand the trees may eat you, but go there. It's kind of like we're told, you want to go camping in the middle of the outback where mountain lions and grizzly bears are, have a happy, be aware. They may kill you, but you're welcome to go. Ultimately, that's what it boils down to. But yeah, where a civilization has evolved to that point, interstellar starships are as common as vehicles. As common as cars. But they are governed as far as where they go.
Let's move to another question. Let's go over to Adam. Are we too scared to look in the mirror and admit we're aliens?
Depends on your definition of alien. And what I mean by that is mankind evolved on Earth, albeit with a little bit of assistance, but they didn't come from another planet. Okay, but humans are absolutely afraid of their own shadow and afraid of admitting they are alien. Okay, alien being, if you weren't born in a given location, if you weren't born in the country you're in, okay, you're alien to that country. It's that simple. If you were born there, you're native. But humans don't, on the whole, like looking at that. Not from my experience, anyway. But yeah, humans are a very skittish, a very fear-based society.
All right, let's move on to another question. Kurt W. Keith, did you ever hear of Thoth, and do you believe in him?
Well, we'll have to start with the first part. No. I've heard of Thoth, but I haven't heard of Thoth. And therefore, do I believe in him? It's a possibility.
So, if it might have been a typo, but Thoth is the Egyptian god of writing, wisdom, magic, and the moon. He is also known as the patron of scribes and keeper of mysteries.
And if that was a typing a myth type, yes, I've heard of him. He's an Ennead. The Ennead being the race that came here and accepted the mantle of God at the Egyptians' claim for them. They just looked at it and went, okay, so you want us to be gods. Well, we'll capitalize on that. And then the Consortium came in and went, this ain't going to continue. You're leaving now. Which is why the Egyptian gods were gone virtually overnight. The same thing happened with the Greek, Norse, and Roman gods, which, by the way, were all the same people. But that was the Gedefni. Same issue. They were told they came to Earth, and mankind, because of their abilities, went, oh, you guys are gods. And they went, great, what does that give us? But yeah, I've heard of Thoth, and do I believe in him? The answer is yeah. Of course, in all fairness, under that same qualification, I've heard of you, Dave, and I believe you're real too.
I think I'm real.
Well, I believe the saying is, I think, therefore I am.
Let's move to another question here. Let's go to Super Crazy. Which alien species would humans be most likely to have a sexual attraction with?
I'm not even going to touch that one. Because I know of humans that have a sexual attraction to cattle.
Oh, let's not go there.
Exactly my point.
Come on, there's some hot aliens out there. What about the Nordics? What about the Pleiadians? Give us something to be.
Pleiadians not so much, but if you want to go as far as looking by human standard attractive, take away the green skin, the Orions rank. Your Venusians are another group. When you take a look at the Mobians, another group, and the Nordics, certainly the only complication with Nordics are with the Nords or the Gedefni are, frankly, they are physically intimidating because of their size. But I mean, everybody has their own attraction level.
I hear you. Let's move on. Let's go over to Boondock, as we got about 5 minutes to go, Keith. The crystal skulls. Are they the skulls of the crystalline Vulcan species of the sun?
Negative. Crystal skulls. Why they were patterned as a crystal skull, I'm not entirely certain. But I do know there is a communication network linked between them. Actually, I know where they came from, but why they were designed as skulls, that part I don't know. But there are 13 of them in total, which, coincidentally enough, and I don't believe much in coincidences, fits the Atlantean Empire. They were a communication device to go between ships. See, we got to understand when the Atlanteans got here, they were asked where they were from. The locals asked where these guys came from, and they responded with, well, that was different. They responded with, "We're from the Atlantia," which, by the way, was the name of the ship, not the name of the society. But no, those crystal skulls are an intricate network. I mean, they're an intricate interstellar network designed for, so to speak, or not interstellar, intership. Why they designed them to look like skulls, I have no idea. Because in all fairness, it's a pretty poor design from the communication standpoint. At least given the understanding I've got of it.
All right, I think we can sneak one more in here. Let's go to Adam. Is mutually assured destruction a deterrent from being invaded from outer space?
No. Now, of course, I've got to look at it from this way. If you talk mutually assured destruction, number one, they're not worried, the offworlders aren't worried about mankind destroying them. But they are concerned if they try and invade Earth, because Earth is protected. They are concerned that the Consortium will blow their own home planet out from under them and annex them from the Consortium. So if that's what you're referring to as being mutually assured, certainly, but they're not worried about humans' ability to fight any more than humans are worried about the technological advancement of cockroaches.
Can we get one more in? Yeah, let's do it. Let's go to Xanos. On the scale of 1 to 10, where is human intelligence in the universe?
I put it at a solid 2. I don't know what they rank it at, but I know what kind of people we're dealing with as compared to what's out there. And yeah, I know that sounded rude. Only because it probably was. See, we got to remember that intellect is not just a matter of brain capacity. Humans have eidetic memories. Every one of you does. The problem is you don't have total recall. And that may be a benefit in some cases. You know, but the reality is mankind's intellect is not very well developed. This is obvious by the way they treat each other. Higher intellects don't do that. Now, I should qualify that, but along with a higher intellect comes a higher emotional intellect, if you will.
I can see that. And I don't think a 2 is insultive. It's just that we haven't reached our full capabilities yet. I'm going to assume that's what you're saying.
Ultimately, yes.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
See, this is why you're the diplomat and I'm not.
Well, I do my best, my friend. I do my best. Keith, we're going to go to break here in moments. And when we return with our Keith Andrews and the ET Connection here on Spaced Out Radio, we're going to continue with audience questions all over the board because that's what we do when our Keith is on. It's not a regular interview. It's a bunch of fun with audience participation. If you want to do so, join us in our YouTube chat. Join us on social media. Everything Spaced Out Radio. This is Spaced Out Radio with host Dave Scott. All right, Keith, we're clear. I'm just going to put you in the green room and I'll be right back, okay?
Oh, no.
Be right back, everybody. All right, I'm back. We got about a minute 30. Bring Keith back here momentarily. Hi, Mr. Cowley. All right. Beelzebub has a devil put aside for me. For me. For me. Having fun, Keith?
I question that, but I question what funny is, to be frank. But I'm
Oh.
certainly not having a bad time.
I hear you, buddy. I hear you.
I mean, I suppose I could have said yes, but I also tell people I ain't gonna lie to you to make you feel better. You know.
Right? Hold on. Thank you to Lil Cam, Major Lee, and Cosmic Joe for the super chats tonight. Very much appreciate the love and support. We're going to get going here in about 10 seconds. And here we go. Here we go with the second hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. We appreciate you tuning us on in wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Tamandua. Tamandua is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as a clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our Keith Andrews and the ET Connection continues here on the show as Keith joins us each and every month to talk about the weird and strange. This is where we usually go peak woo. Keith, thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
Let's go right back to audience questions, my friend. Let's go to Caged on the Inside, who is asking, question, is all the races of aliens you're talking about from the Talking with Abductees?
Oh, no. The majority of them are from talking to them myself. I just get the confirmation many of the abductees know the alien races by a different name. So we have to decide, we've got to discuss what the quality, what the characteristics are of the alien they're dealing with, so I can piece together which one I know them as. But we also have to remember, and this is something I've been piecing together for a while, is that I remember a lot of my past lives, which means many of these races I met before this lifetime. Or more to the point, I met initially before this lifetime.
I hear you there.
I mean, you take the Thursday. I met them way before I was born as a human on Earth.
Let's go to Paul. What have you experienced?
Well, that's a long question. I think it'd be short to tell you what I haven't. When I first started running into offworlders, well, I ran into the council before I ran this lifetime. I ran into the council of 12 before I met anybody, including humans. And then, of course, when it came to the abductions, my first run-in was with the Talon. Now, the Talon are an ant-like race that literally snapped my arm to find out I'm being abducted.
Keith,
I've gone to the route.
Keith,
know,
I'm gonna get
yo.
I'm gonna get you to repeat that because your computer started phasing out there a little bit.
Oh, okay. Many, and as far as the races I've dealt with, most of them I've met first, and I met first on my own. The discussions I've had with other abductees has been because they're trying to figure it out, but I don't know them. I don't know them by the same name. So we have to go over the characteristics of the individuals to piece together which species I know them as.
So
and
you
with
may
that
know
happening, then we
so
piece
you
together what I know about them.
so you may know them as one name, and other people may call them something different.
Exactly. Like you call, for instance, the Nordics. I call them the Gedefni. They're the same people. Okay. They're just a different name. But then on Earth, years back before World War II took place, the Japanese, if I recall correctly, referred to themselves as Nipponese because their country, according to them at that time, was Nippon. We call them Japanese. Okay, it's the same people, just a different name.
All right, let's move on.
But that's ultimately what you're looking at.
Let's go to Cowie. Keith, what type of life form resides on the dark side of the moon?
Oh, there are a lot of different ones. The far side of the moon is a way station for many species coming into the area. They have to check in there. First of all, it's a touch point for refueling and for carrying on. But if they're going to go to Earth, they have to step in, call it a customs check, if you will. They've got to check in to the way station there and get clearance before they go down, before they proceed to Earth's surface. And then there are some pretty strict guidelines they've got to live by.
What are those guidelines?
Well, number one, you cannot infiltrate Earth and become a member and become an industry leader. If you do make the effort, you're going to end up gone. And I don't mean evicted. I mean vaporized. It is one of these things. Earth is absolutely a protected planet. It is not a prison planet. And as for this issue of abductions and is there some sort of an agreement that I'm aware of? No. Now that does not mean there isn't one. That means that I'm aware of. But I do know that the consortium does have a specific limit to what you can do. So yes, abductions are permitted for research purposes. That doesn't mean you can take them home as a pet or as a meal, which doesn't mean it doesn't happen. You think about it when you look at this planet. If the planet were quarantined, as some of the so-called experts have claimed, why would we have so many abductions taking place? Does that make any sense to anybody?
No, not really.
But no, they stop in. They stop in to literally get their bearings to find out if they can go to the planet, not from a sightseeing standpoint, aside from the Martokians, will come here with their senior classes from a field trip standpoint. But again, there's a lot of guidelines they got to follow.
Let's move on to another question here, Keith. Let's go to Sierra. Did we, humans, come from Mars?
No. Humans were built literally on Earth. Okay. They literally, they were constructed on Earth to handle a growing threat on Earth, but they were brought about by genetic acceleration, courtesy of the first race that ever took a bipedal form here, happening to be, I'm talking civilized, happening to be the elfid race. Yes, you know them as elves. The majority of them now live inside Earth. And no, they're not in danger. You're not in danger of them coming to the surface and going, we're taking over. You're also going to find the same thing with the Kaldar. The Kaldar are inside Earth. You know them as dwarves. But like many of our mythologies are based on ancient races that happen to have evolved here. But humans were built on Earth, not on Mars.
All right, let's continue on with our Keith Andrews and the ET Connection. Super Crazy is asking, do some aliens experience major time dilation effects going back and forth between Earth and their planet, or do they have a way to avoid it?
Ultimately, I don't know if I'd call it time dilation, but yeah, they definitely, some of them will develop what we know as jet lag for pretty much the same reason. Because the clock, their internal clock, is designed for their planet. Now, of course, where they don't have the problem is when you're dealing with generation ships. Okay, those ones, nobody suffers from jet lag. Because their clock is geared to the ship they're on. You know, okay. I mean, we take a look at the Muldock. Now, you guys, some of you have seen these great big ships that resemble ancient Roman Colosseums. That's a Muldock generation ship. And their entire system, metabolic system, is linked to that rhythm. And yeah, it's a false what humans call a circadian rhythm. It's false in as much as it's created by cyclic lighting. Again, it's a technological wonder, but especially by mankind's standpoint.
Let's continue on here with Keith. Let's go next to Kevin. Will the reptilians eat human flesh?
Well, that would depend on which species you're referring to. There are, you got to understand, most reptilians are carnivorous. So yeah, they will. The Teklak, on the other hand, find human flesh to be a delicacy.
Well, that's always nice.
Well, they like to think so, but they have been told you cannot strip the planet of people. Just not going to happen. You know?
Super Crazy is asking, what can some aliens do that would seem like superhero-like powers to humans?
Fly. Jump 30 feet into the air. Walk through a wall without leaving a mark on the wall or their body. You know, these are all normal things. Well, normal from their standpoint. There's also a race that they will literally eat you while you're standing there by simply popping their stomach out of their forearm and wrapping it around your hand. That would be the Fuentiren. Really nice group of people, but don't shake hands. They will take it as an offer to feed them. many of the what we call paranormal abilities or the psychic abilities, many of these races have them in spades. Okay. And yes, you do have the neat little part of issues, the neat little part of them being able to control or influence the way people see things. Okay, the ability to essentially turn invisible right in front of you is another one that some races have. And let's not forget the all-important regeneration.
All right, let's move on to another question here, Keith. Let's go to the Andromedan. What races do they use or utilize time travel? On wormholes or black holes?
Okay, now, first and foremost, time travel itself only happens going forward. Okay, where it comes to black holes, the Zerziks are one of the few species that can actually utilize them. Everybody else gets torn right to shreds. Okay, gets disassembled to their component parts. And wormholes, just about every advanced species utilizes wormholes. They are if you will, a superhighway to the other side of the universe. But there is that neat little problem with them. If you hit the wrong one, you're really in the wrong end of the world.
All right, let's go to another question. Jerry is asking, are there space cops like in the day the Earth stood still?
Ultimately, yes. The Consortium has their own police force, as do the various different species. Crime is not relegated to Earth. Okay, it happens around the universe. This is why I tell people the Indian races and the ancient races are not that different from humans, aside from their toys. And rest assured, they got some pretty trippy toys.
Frankie wants to know, I've been told that this is the 5th rendition of the human race. Is this real truth?
Well, I suspect that depends entirely on what you're calling a rendition. Okay, mankind has evolved. And they've been, they've been around for a while. I haven't seen much evolution. But is this the 5th rendition of them? Ultimately, you might qualify it as a 5th rendition if you look at how close we've come to destroying ourselves multiple times and then had to rebuild. I haven't actually done a full count. So you've been told 5. I can go with it for you because I haven't done the research or the calculations. But if you chalk it up as a rendition based on mankind took itself way back and then had to rebuild itself, then yeah, 5 may well fit quite nicely.
Okay, let's move on. Let's go to Super Ron. Do the aliens, have guard dog type things?
Oh yeah, they absolutely do. There are a number of different, like I said, they've got, offworlders have pets. I'd be cautious with some of them, okay, because some of their pets, you know how humans have dogs that like to lick your face, or they've got cats that may like to knead your leg. Well, some of these races, some of these species have animals that will simply kill you by accident because they were trying to be cuddly. Or of course you got the squishy ones that really don't do much of anything except sit there.
I want to go back to what you were saying about time travel there for a second, because while you were talking, I actually remembered something that Jack Sarfati, a scientist, a physicist, said about a week ago on this show. And that was, it actually agrees with what you say, that we have figured out on this planet how to time travel forward. We just don't have the technology to do it yet. He goes, we don't know how to get backwards. We know it's possible. We haven't figured out the mathematics on that yet, but it comes down that jumping forward is easier, and in the future, you'll be able to jump forward and backward.
I would not hold my breath on the backward. Technically, I guess it's possible depending on how far down the road you go. But every species I've talked to has told me the same thing. Backwards time travel cannot happen. Okay, there's a built-in fail-safe to stop that. Forward time travel, absolutely, humans will be able to do. They can do it now. Many times by accident, but they can do it now.
Joe is asking, are there any races out there that are complete blockheads that make us look like geniuses?
Oh, absolutely. There's a neat little group. I forget the name off the top of my head, but there's a neat little subspecies of culture that literally they have a very minimal understanding of much. You point them in one direction, they don't even change direction of walking unless they run into something they can't dig through. Okay, so not the brightest people. Wonderfully focused, but not the people I'd be putting in control of much of anything. I mean, there are definitely species that are, if we're not looking at interstellar, because you got to understand, any race capable of traveling interstellar, intellectually speaking, is way above mankind. Okay, but there are many species that are on a planet that have no intellectual capacity to speak of, not the least of which are the econ. The econ are they have one purpose, and they are not a civilization per se. They're a mobile food source.
All right,
but they absolutely do not have any technology to speak of.
Keith, 90 seconds before we go to break, Christine is asking, do the Nordics look homely or scary under all that attractiveness?
No. Some of their personalities do, but they are, like, most pictures of the Nordics that you see show them in phenomenal physical shape. They are as varied as humans are. We are not talking about an ugly race as a whole. There are some that'll scare a buzzard off a wagon at 100 yards, but that's not common.
Sandra is asking, is there more beautiful planets than Earth, or is this a vacation hub for the aliens?
Oh no, there are definitely planets that are more attractive than Earth. Okay. This isn't exactly a vacation plan, because you can't come here for a vacation. You come here for research or observation, which boils down to research. But there are planets that make Earth look absolutely barren. Especially when you start talking to the other races.
I guess that makes sense. Keith, I'm going to get you to hold on right there as we will take a break here at the bottom of the hour. Our Keith Andrews and the ET Connection happens each month on Spaced Out Radio. We're glad to have Keith here again answering your questions. Let's go to break.
Okay.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott.
All right, Keith, we're clear.
Okie doke. I'm going to run to the washroom. I'll be right back.
All right. If I don't get to all the questions tonight, I apologize. There's a lot lined up here. All right. Fun show tonight. Good questions, everybody.
Long time back.
Well, we got about 3.5 minutes. Take your time.
Oh, yeah.
Don't forget, I will be at UFOCon 2025 in San Francisco, California in like 27 days. Go to UFOCon2025.com. If you're a listener here, do me a favor. Come down. I want to meet you. Get some pictures together. Hang out. We'll talk about our Keith Andrews sideburns because they're great. I am in for a quiet weekend, Sandra. Totally in for a awesome weekend. We got about 2.5 minutes, Keith.
Okie doke.
Look who's popped in early. Like 38 minutes early. It's extra small Lee Strauss right there.
Well, hello there.
What are you doing extra small?
Well, I have just come out of the other room, and I'm here to join you guys for whatever you want to do, whatever you want to talk about.
Oh, okay.
There you go.
There you go.
Yeah.
You want to come on with Keith and I, or are you going to take a break?
No, I'm good. I just woke up, actually. I took a short little nap, and so here I am.
You do realize that it wasn't exactly an answer, right? I mean, it was an answer, but
Hi, Vanessa.
Well, it's been a while. Our Keith Andrews, how are you doing?
I'm still breathing. It's
yeah.
been an interesting situation. Turns out I'm having more impact on computers than I would like. Makes running things here complicated.
Yeah. Well, sir. So I just saw the title there. What do aliens want with humans?
Nothing.
Most of them research.
I would agree with that.
They want an extra small serving of Lee Strauss.
No, for some that's almost impossible.
No, I mean the variations are absolutely incredible, but the majority of it is just research comprehension. Some of them are literally studying xenosocioeconomic evolution, also known as research. How does civilization evolve?
Right.
Hold on here, guys. Cosmic Joe, Major Lee, and can't read my own writing. Lil Kim and Mel WD40. Thank you for the super chats. Greatly appreciate the love and support. And are you sticking around, Lee? Just nod.
Yeah, I'm here.
All right, here we go. Here comes the second half of Spaced Out Radio. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. We always appreciate you tuning us on in wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Reminder to all of you before we bring our Keith Andrews back in that if you've missed portions of this show or others, you can check out our free archives on YouTube or any major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com, we have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Here we go. Our Keith Andrews, ET Connection. We've also been joined, that is, and we are joyed to have Lee Strauss here. He'll be on for hour number 3 with the Cryptid Report. Lee, don't be disappointed in me, but I haven't uploaded your music yet.
Oh, well.
I know. Keith, you ready for more questions? Because we got a lot of them.
Fire away.
All right, let's go to Cosmic J or Galactic J. Is there a species of extraterrestrials that want to invade Earth? And how can we as citizens prepare for something like that? Would we get protection from the good ETs?
Well, two factors. There's a few races that would love to, but they won't do it because we have interference. The consortium itself has forbade it by punishment of planetary elimination. And I don't mean they bomb the tar out of the planet. I mean they blow the planet up and everybody dies. You know, that would be the first thing. Now, as far as how humans prepare for an alien invasion, I believe the term is put your head between your knees and kiss your butt goodbye. Because if they were going to do it, the war would be over before you even knew it started. Ultimately, they would hit Earth from about the orbit of Mars with a broadband subquantum magnetic flux. Okay. What that would do is destroy not only all of the electronics in existence, but all of their manufactured parts. It would modify the literal molecular bonding between them, making them absolutely useless, which means you wouldn't even have a clue the attack was coming. This is why I say they make for great shows, for great science fiction movies. And I usually will watch these types of movies because they're entertaining. But are they based in reality? Not even functionally remotely closely.
All right, let's go to another question here for you, Keith, from Scanman. I'm cutting you off because we have a bunch of questions here. Scanman is asking, which of these off-world species could provide us with the greatest amount of useful medical information?
Pleiadians. They are, bar none, the top of the totem pole where it comes to medical. But you'll have to rely on the hybrid liaisons because a purebred Pleiadian cannot exist on Earth. They can't survive. The atmosphere will kill them. But they are the ones that can provide the most. The question that you've got to look at, though, is if they turn it over into humans, how are we going to get the humans they turn it over to release it? Because they've already got cures that have been guided that, humans already have cures for many of the illnesses that you're told we don't have cures for. And yeah, I realized what that sounds like. But the Pleiadians are, without a shadow of a doubt, the best where it comes to medical knowledge.
All right, let's go to another one. Blue Cruz is asking, remote viewers have stated that the Ascended Masters and the Akashic Records are just highly advanced alien holographic technology designed to fool and mislead humans. Is this true?
Well, in my experience, no. The Akashic Records came into being before any of the Ascended Master of the so-called Ascended Masters were even a remote thought. The Akashic Records are a record of reality. Okay, but they are held for each individual, so they are they span amount of space and time that humans just cannot fathom. But no, they are not. I mean, you can call them advanced alien technology, bearing in mind they are built on a molecular structure that supersedes any technological advancement. Human technology is extremely limited in its form. But no, the Akashic Records are manned by the Zerziks at this point. Well, have been for, almost time immemorial.
Super Ron is asking, have the aliens ever regretted abducting somebody?
Individuals absolutely have. But have aliens on the whole seen abduction as a bad thing? No. It's the same as when you take a look at humans abducting tigers to do, to take their tests. Some humans abducting tigers find it's a really bad idea. Okay, and that's usually because they didn't contain the tiger properly. The reason that the reticulans, what you know as the Greys, the reason they have the Gaddafi with them is because humans tend to panic when they get abducted. And the reticulans are not qualified to hold them down. There's been a lot of wounded reticulans because of it, which is where the Gaddafi come in.
Can I ask a question on that real quick? Yes. So,
from my standpoint, no problem.
With the reticulums, is that why they always come in threes?
Part of that is part of why they come in threes. You got to understand their entire numerical system is a trinary system. Okay, they find, and because when they come in bringing a lot of different aspects, but it's more an issue of functionality as far as the three goes, not protection, because they're not capable of withstanding even a shall we say, under physically developed human. They're just not built for it. Ultimately, that's where the issue is.
Gotcha.
All right, let's move on to another question, Keith. Let's go over to Hillbilly Herb. Do all ET species live on or in a planet?
Do all ET species live on or in a planet? No. I mentioned a little earlier in the show, the Maldocs have what they call generation ships. The people on those ships seldom ever even see a planet. Never mind grow up on one. So I mean, some are born in space, some are born, on a planet, in a planet. Some are literally born inside what you know as a sun. I like the ones that live in the middle, in the heart of a black hole. Those are fun. And yes, there are things at the heart of the black hole. Mankind, I don't know if they'll ever get to that point of actually seeing it, but the theory would be yes, if they live long enough.
Okay, let's go to another question. Let's go to Cosmic Joe. Did the government trade alien technology for human experimentation?
As far as I'm aware, individuals may have, but I'm not aware of any sort of a contractual agreement to do said transfer. I know people have pointed the finger at governments and said this was done, but do I have any way of backing it up? No. I do know that it won't be to have transferred any sort of combat weaponry. That is strictly forbidden.
Philip is asking, can we leave our body, travel through wormholes, return to our bodies, and not remember this?
Technically, the answer is yes, if that's what you're aiming for. I mean, number one, can you leave your body and travel through a wormhole and return to your body? Absolutely. Absolutely, you can. Whether you remember it or not is another issue. You will remember it. Actually, I should say the problem is in recollection, because some of what's over there is just mind-boggling. And it may be so twisted that you just can't wrap your brain around it to piece it together. But you can absolutely astral travel through a black hole.
Let's go to Sierra. How do the Nordics have muscles if they live in space? Do they live on a planet with gravity?
They absolutely live on a planet with gravity. Now, if you take a look at the Norse gods, they said they came from Mount Olympus. They do. But Mount Olympus was not on Earth. Mount Olympus was on another planet altogether. Okay, so they're from there, and of course they also have this thing, and mankind has it to a mild degree. They also have in their ships their own gravity adjusted for their own planet, which is, by the way, a higher gravity in the first place. Higher gravity than Earth, that is.
Here we go with another question, Keith. Mel WD40 is asking, how long ago was the human race built?
Roughly speaking, about almost 3 million years ago. They were not built as we see them today. Humans have evolved from the time when they were put together in the first place. But they also they started off at a decent level and then ended up regressing due to circumstance, and then had to rebuild themselves. And of course, skeletal configuration alters as necessity dictates, which is why when you go back in history, when life was harder, when people had to get up and move, people were inherently stronger with less fat to muscle ratio, because they actually got up and moved because necessity dictated it. Okay, so it's been a bit of a roller coaster, and we're bound to go through another run like that.
Joe is asking, are wormholes one-way streets? Did they have to find another one to get back to where they started?
Ultimately, yes, but if you know where the first one is, you've usually got some sort of a sensor that can then lead you to the next one. Because at the speed they work, going the other direction is a bit of a problem. Talk about going against the current, not to mention the other vehicles.
Christine is asking, I thought all Nordics were sweet.
You were mistaken. Yeah. Rest assured, some of the Gaddafi are worse than the worst of the humans that you've seen, or for that matter, read about. You know, mankind does not have do not have a monopoly. And pardon my French, but they don't. Humans do not have a monopoly on idiocy or on egocentricity. You know, I mean, you got to remember, with the Gaddafi, for instance, they can quite readily rip the arms off of somebody rip the arms off somebody less well built than they are.
All right, let's move over to Leacham. You say we were built. Were we made from scratch, or did our makers use material already here?
Humans were literally they were accelerated, and this is why we have the link between the chimpanzee and the human. It's not because they necessarily followed that normal path, but the chimpanzee had the best evolutionary capacity, and when they were accelerated, they took what they had and simply accelerated the evolution of it with a few minor tweaks and hiccups. But mankind wasn't the first race on the planet.
Who was?
Well, from my understanding, the first race to actually get here would have been the spirits themselves. But the elephant race was built here before man ever even was a concept. And then it got a little twisted. Even the Gaboran got here before mankind did. Well, in all fairness, the Gaboran got here before the rest of them. But Earth itself is a Gaboran, aka a living planet.
All right, let's move on. Let's go to Sandra. Are we the problem child of the universe, up to no good, and have to be checked on?
No. It's kind of like saying a 2-year-old is the problem that mankind has. The human race is simply an infantile, very curious, very aggressive, self-centered race. They are not the biggest problem. They don't even have the capacity to be the biggest problem yet. Although they do have an ego that ranks up there. AKA, they think they're that good, but they're really not. But that said, do they require guidance? Absolutely they do. Of course, a child requires guidance not to put their finger in an active light socket either. At least it might be an idea, unless you're looking for your kid to have a perm. By the way, that's a bad way of doing it.
Here we go with another question, Keith. So we got 5.5 minutes to go. Let's go to Super Crazy. If an alien got stranded on Earth and needed safe harbor, would you take them into your home like the movie E.T.?
That depends entirely on which race it was. But the short answer on the whole would be yes. Primarily, I'm one of the lucky ones. Most of them know if they're going to show up here, they best be behaving the way they're supposed to. But you got to remember, they live, and more importantly, I live by karmic law. AKA, do unto others as you desire them to do unto you. If they're stranded and lost, I will certainly give them a hand if they feel right.
I get that. All right, let's move on to another one. Let's go to Super Ron. Do the aliens do abductions out of boredom because it's boring in space?
Oh God, no! They do it out of curiosity and scientific enhancement that is on the whole. I mean, some of them may well do it based on boredom, but the majority of it is literally, let's figure out how these people evolved. One of the biggest questions is, how have they not managed to blow themselves apart, given the way they're behaving towards each other?
What's the issue?
Well, mankind claims to be trying for peace. But I hate to tell you this, peace is not attained by superior firepower. And the reality is, the offworlders are literally watching to find out, and this is why I use the term xeno-socioeconomic evolution. Humans have to get to a point where they realize the color of your skin has nothing to do with what value you are or who you crawl into bed with. But humans haven't pieced us together yet, primarily because they're being taught not to. And this is why the caution keeps coming up. And many people have been abducted. Bud Hopkins did a number of interviews with people that had been abducted and were told point blank, get along, quit looking to destroy your planet. Right? And many people have been, from many walks of life, have been given this message and then seemingly totally ignored it. You know, but they're not here out of boredom.
True. All right, 2.5 minutes. Let's go to Super Crazy again. Do aliens love anything about humans that they severely lack?
Yeah, an insatiable curiosity streak and the natural ability to handle to work with what humans call 0-point energy, aka reality manipulation, when they work together. This is why many alien races look at the humans and go, if these guys ever learn to work together, we're in trouble. But thus far, there's no real functional sign of that. Understand, 50,000 years ago, mankind had evolved. You know them now, well, I know them now, as the Mobians. They originated on Earth and did have 100% peace. No war, no jealousy, no greed. They went and colonized Mobius on the other side of the sun. So we know humans have the capacity to do this. But it could well be another 50,000 years before they do it. Mankind's only just realizing that we literally, when you boil us down, you literally find there's no viable difference between one race of humans and the next. And you certainly can't tell who they're sleeping with by way of their skeleton.
Sneak in one more, Keith. Let's go to Adam. Is the moon the original center of the universe?
Not even remotely close. No. The moon was put here way, way, way back to bring the potential tidal flow on Earth and thereby enhance the possibility of natural life evolution. Or more to the point, natural life sustainability. But it was never the middle of the universe.
Keith, I want to say a big thank you for coming back on Spaced Out Radio, buddy. And I always appreciate
you for having me.
Coming on in. It's always a lot of fun. People can find you on Facebook, R. Keith Andrews, same as your YouTube channel. Coming up next, the extra small Lee Strauss is here with another great hour of entertainment for you. Stay tuned. Hour 3 is next.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott.
All right, Keith, we're clear.
Thank you very much. Thanks so very, thanks again for having me.
Keith, do you want to stick around with Lee and I, and that way Lee can fire off some questions your way?
Yeah, I don't have a problem with it.
Lee, what do you think?
Let's do it. Let's do it.
All right.
Absolutely.
All right, you guys chat away. I'm going to take a quick break.
I got to as well, real quick.
Oh, okay. I didn't actually realize I was still on the show in all fairness, but apparently I am. But no, I avoid, I certainly avoid answering questions that are listed in the chat room on the whole, because, well, frankly, that's in deference to Dave.
It's been a while, buddy.
It has. How you doing?
Good, good. Are you going to meet us in Las Vegas?
I would be hard pressed to meet you at the coffee shop right now.
Oh, yeah.
Sad to say, financially, things are, well, politely put, complicated.
I do understand. I do get it.
I would like, I'd love to say I can make it, but right now, unless something really bizarre happens, I wouldn't be holding my breath.
Gotcha.
But if it can't counter anything, my thoughts will be with you.
We'd love to have those too.
There are times that's usually not a good idea. Yeah. I know that's not meant as a slight against you by any means.
Yeah. Well, we'll take what you can give us. That's for sure.
Oh yeah. It's always good when Keith is around. We got 1 minute, boys. We got Swamp Dweller first, okay?
Yeah, no problem. No, I find with the problems I'm running into with technology, it's amazing I'm still in touch with anybody.
All right. Big thank you to Joe, Lee, Cam, Mel WD40, and CS for the super chats. Greatly appreciate the love and support, everybody. And what else do we got here? Don't forget you can shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. We do not have ugly swag, people. No ugly swag, so check it on out. Here we go. Here we go with the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. We always appreciate your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Tamandua. Tamandua is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam says the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Okay, here we go. We have our good friend R. Keith Andrews sticking around. We have Major Lee here. But first, we're going to get to Swamp Dweller and another weird story.
Hello and welcome to Spaced Out Radio's Swamp. I'm Swamp Dweller, and tonight I'm going to take you on a mystic journey of the unknown, sharing tales of monsters, legends, and nightmares. Welcome to the Spaced Out Radio Swamp.
Before I start, I should mention that I am half white, half Mexican male, and this story happened to me when I was 17 years old. My family went to California for a summer vacation, and to see the family we have out there. That year, we decided to go camping in a certain park in Northern California for a few days, and being a Phoenix native, it was a much-needed break from the 120-degree heat. All was good for the first few days, until the second to last night there. A group of 5 to 6 of us were sitting by the campfire at 1 in the morning, when we noticed the forest goes dead silent around us. As we all look around at each other, questioningly, we hear the pained, blood-curdling scream of a woman saying, No, ring from the trees to the left of our camp. Not knowing what was wrong or what was going on, we kept our ears open and stayed on guard. A few moments later, we hear the same noise again, but somehow different. More inhuman this time, like a voice being played off of a speaker. We instantly recognized it as the voice of the woman from before. Horrified, we quietly all went to our tents to hide. Eventually, we all fell into a very uneasy sleep. I jolted awake at 3 in the morning, desperately needing to pee. Thankfully, we were across from the outhouses, so after a quick sprint over into the outhouses and relieving myself, I hear what sounded like scratching on a tin metal roof. I immediately froze, remembering the inhuman howl from earlier that night, hoping they weren't related. Armed with only my phone, I watched the next half an hour tick down, either waiting for the sun to rise or for the sound of the scraping to stop. Suddenly, the light in the bathroom cut out. The timer for the lights had gone out, leaving me in the dark. With the faintest bit of light threatening to peek its head over from the horizon, I decided to make my break back to the tent. I made it across the dirt road to the camp when I heard it again. That woman's shriek, but not loud. It had the same intensity and inhuman artificialness, but it was like barely a whisper. Foolishly, I turned around and perched on the metal roof. I saw was a 7-foot, pale gray creature with 3-inch claws on all fours and deep, sunken eyes staring at me a mere 25 feet away. Its flesh was tightly stretched across its bones. It was completely hairless and lacked any form of genitalia. I was frozen solid as we looked at each other until it took to its right and saw the light creeping up. It stared at me and let out one more agonizing cry that had me haunted till this very day. It sent one last soul-stabbing stare before it vanished into the early morning. As I lay back into my tent silently sobbing and trying to fall back asleep, I hear the faint echo of the thing's cry. Needless to say, I didn't sleep at all that night and refused to set foot in those woods again. As we left the campsite that day, we saw a homeless-looking woman standing at the side of the road going down the mountain. I didn't make eye contact, but I knew she was staring at me. Once we passed, I casually looked over my shoulder to see if she was there, and she wasn't. But there was an owl who flew close to the ground to where she was.
So strange, so strange. All right. Thank you, Swamp Dweller, for another spooky story. If you want more just like that, head on over to YouTube, type in Swamp Dweller, hit subscribe, ring that bell, and enjoy the show. Because he's got thousands of stories for you right there. All right, let's go to it.
Oh, hello, Jackie.
All right, Major Lee is here again, hanging out with us on this wonderful night, and we still have our Keith Andrews hanging on out. Lee, how you doing, my man?
I am doing great. Guess what I'm doing tomorrow?
Building another room.
No, I am actually headed out to the Olympic Peninsula out here in Washington State to meet up with a good buddy of mine to do some squatching or Sasquatching. And that I don't want to say that word.
We don't know what squatching is around here.
Yeah. Yep.
Don't necessarily want to know, in all fairness.
True.
Yeah.
Very true. Very true. That's awesome, man. That's going to be fun for a couple of days for you.
It will be. It will be for sure. But
Wonderful.
you know, along with Sasquatch, a lot of times you get the UFO activity too. So I'm open game for everything.
I think that's wonderful. I think that is absolutely wonderful. Sounds like a lot of fun. And I'll be honest with you, I'm jealous. I am totally jealous about it.
Well, I'm super excited to be out there in the rain doing it.
Oh, yes. I know you've met Keith before, along with us. You met him at our Reno fan party last year, and now, you know, that's coming up on 1 year. And I know you haven't had a chance to interview Keith yet, so I figured we'd keep him around so that way you could ask him some questions.
Well, absolutely. Sure, I'd love to. In fact, I'd love to have you on the show too, Keith. But yeah, so with the three aliens that we're talking about before, the question I had about the three grays, are you sure they don't a lot of the times come together and come and get people, you know, to protect themselves? Don't they have like this protocol where three would have to be so in case one of them gets hurt, you know, the other can subdue the human or whatever, you know what I mean, just to protect themselves?
Technically there is safety in numbers, but is it, so to speak, a protocol per se? Only in as much as they've got one that will be the leader of said pod, and the other two being flunkies of one form or another. But the Reticulans are not exactly physically adept enough, physically built well enough to defend against humans. Not the least of which is the length of reach humans have.
Yeah.
And of course, their temperament is all wrong for conflict on the whole.
Right. Yeah. So the way I kind of think about this is they'll use their power of their mind to subdue a human, right? Once you make the eye contact, they've got you, so to speak. But if something were to happen and you break that eye contact or you come out of it, the other two could step in as well, right?
Well, two major factors. One, you're talking where it comes to the mind and the mind ability, the mesmerization that you're referring to. Those individuals are very few and far between.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Although I have no doubt it does apply in certain cases.
Yeah. Yeah. Do all species of alien come in threes or no?
Not even remotely close. The Untar, for instance, only come on individual runs. Of course, the Untar happen to be intergalactic bounty hunters. And they're not usually worried about bringing somebody back alive.
I gotcha. The way I think a lot of these species, Keith, come and they view us as the bodies that we're in are like a pair of clothes that you might put on during the day. Is that correct?
Well, ultimately, yes. But you got to understand, the more advanced races understanding of reincarnation. The body you have as a human is literally a vehicle for the moment until it dies off, then you go get another one. Much like humans will drive a Chevy until the Chevy dies, and then they'll go buy a Ford or a Mercury or whatever. They pick another vehicle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm sure you've heard stories, and you know this, that a lot of the humans are taken on board to help the human because he's got something more tangible to do, maybe in his life cycle or whatever, and they'll come and cure your cancer, or they'll do these other sorts of things. Are multiple races involved with fixing and curing humans? Quite possibly.
Well, when you say possibly, you could go a whole lot of ways. But yeah, there are many that will do it. But you got to remember, what they're doing is more often than not, it's not because that human has a phenomenal gift and some sort of great destiny. It's a question of, okay, this lesser life form is hurt. Let's put it back together. But then they have to put them back into the same cesspool. So many of them, even though they are helping them because that's the way they're inclined, are reticent to do so because they're just going to have to put them back in the same cesspool.
Gotcha. Do a lot of these, when you get on board, do a lot of these species detach the human soul from the body? Does that sort of thing go on?
Does it go on? Yes, but it's very seldom. Most of the other races don't know how to do that. Unless you count termination, at which point it's really hard to get it restarted.
Gotcha.
But there are not that many races that can actually expurgate a soul.
Tell me about one of the races that can.
Well, the Reptilians absolutely can. Okay. Let me just think here. I was going to say the Zotar, but you should probably stand up to grab that. Just trying to think. There was a race. No, where are we? There we are. The Zeron. Now, the Zeron have a dual brain, and they absolutely have the capacity to forcibly evict somebody from their body. Many daemon can do it.
Yeah.
Okay, so there are species that can.
Are there any cases that you know of where an alien race has taken a soul from a body and put one of their souls in?
Not survived the process that I'm aware of. I'm sure it's happened,
Wow.
but doing a deliberate swap, the only time that can happen without what's it called? Repercussions. Have you ever heard the term of a walk-in?
Yes.
Okay. That can be done alien to human if the circumstances and the agreement is right. At which point there's no repercussion. The one qualification is that alien soul cannot, they are completely forbidden to go after a high position in either industry or political arenas.
Gotcha.
And if they do go after them, their body will summarily die.
I gotcha. So there's obviously in all of this, there's a higher order to things. And if you break some sort of contract, there's repercussions. Is that right?
That is very correct. The only difference between theirs and the way humans do it is theirs applies to everybody. Doesn't matter what station you hold. Doesn't matter how much influence you've got over people. The law is the law.
Yeah. And what race or who makes up those rules? Who comes along and says, no, you've done something bad, you're going to pay for what you've done?
Well, that would be the Council of 12. And bear in mind, on the Council of 12, you only have one person from each, there is only one member of any given race on said council.
Okay. We got it. Gotcha. We got an interesting question. Is there a race of crystalline aliens that live in a crystal city?
That would be the Vulcans. So the short answer is yes.
Okay. And how are they different from let's say humans?
Well, let's start with they've got a crystalline superstructure. Number 2, 3 arms, 3 legs. Okay. And they are light refractive.
Gotcha. So do they move kind of like the Predator does then, where you would see the shimmering as they're walking by?
No, they are much more, I guess the best word for it would be clunky.
Ah.
I think the best rendition I ever saw of it was, have you ever played the game Skyrim?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, the Ice Atriarch, I think it is.
Yes, like they're the ice dragon things. They're kind of small, wispy things or whatever.
No, you're thinking, I know what you're referring to. No, I'm talking about the big ones that clunk around. Like they walk they're very stiff-legged. Something to do with being made out of crystal. Okay,
I gotcha. And do all of these races that are out there in the universe, are all our souls similar, or are we different?
Souls are, for lack of a better way of putting it, essentially identical. Each of the different species, when people die, and I mean people being the royal, plants, animals, aliens, ancient races, humans, they all go to the same place to pick a new vehicle. And yes, that means you can decide to incarnate as a human or as an alien. Or for that matter, you can incarnate as a plant if you'd like. Basically, it's your call.
Gotcha. Are there many alien races out there that realize this, or they don't care about karma, or are they doing some bad stuff and then not getting the chance to reincarnate, or is this just like, it doesn't matter who you were, in a previous life, you're going to go on and keep manifesting and not go to I don't want to say the word, but hell?
Oh, hell's a wonderful place. You got a heck of a party there. That's another issue altogether, though. But the short answer is nobody is forbidden from reincarnating. Yes, there are people out there that are a lot more violent, a lot worse. But here's the overall, and this applies to literally every soul out there. You're all out looking to remember who and what you are. Meaning all of your reincarnations, no matter what venue you go down, are designed to draw your soulmate and all of the component parts of you back to you, to remember exactly what you're capable of. Now, that will take literally thousands of lifetimes, because you got to find your soulmate. Okay,
Gotcha.
and that's a long conversation in and of itself.
I gotcha. Is our soul capable, as far as you know, of living two different lives simultaneously? You know, if you were in another species as well as a human at the same time?
Technically, the answer is yes. It's called bilocation. Is it common? Absolutely not. What is more common is that somebody's past life, which may be in an alien species, is more memorable than their current life. So they get trapped in trying to translate what they're seeing in today's world as compared to what they remember. And that can be a complication.
I got a good question for you here. If you were to hang out with any alien species that you ever wanted to, what is your favorite species to hang out with?
You're going to love this one. What you call God. Only in all fairness, what you call God is way less than what I do. But he's got the answers. And I use the term he simply because I hate going he, she, it, them. You get the picture.
Yeah.
You know, but some of my best friends are Scherzozian. That is your 7.5 to 8.5 foot reptilian. But it's not so much a given race, so much as given individuals.
Yeah, I would think that there's some species out there that know how to party and some that are just kind of like sticks in the mud. So,
oh Lord, yeah. I will tell you the one species I won't hang out with on the whole is the Talon. Those are your ant folk. And there is no way that them and I get along very well.
Gotcha. That's just the species themselves?
Oh, yeah. And every one of the ones I met of them, I've only run into one that was a decent chap. And he's the one that got me out of there in the first place. Lord knows what happened to him.
Yeah. Well, you were talking about a species earlier, and I'm sorry, I don't remember the name that you called them. But there's certain ships that they come in, correct? And you were talking about Mount Olympus, and I was wondering if those ships are like pyramid ships, and maybe that's why they call them, you know, or that they come from the mountain. It's like a big pyramid, you know, and maybe
two different species.
Okay.
Mount Olympus is the home mountain, the mountain that the Gaddafi came from. Okay, those are who you know as the North. The pyramid ships you're referring to belong to the Ennead, which are the Egyptian gods. And they were gods.
And on that note, I'm going to bud right back in here. We got Lee Strauss from our Spaced Out Radio YouTube channel, Element 115, and our Keith Andrews. We're going to continue with these gents when we return for the final half hour of Spaced Out Radio coming up right after
This is Spaced Out Radio and your host, Dave Scott.
Really intriguing questions, Charlie.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I keep sitting here looking in the mirror going, how in tarnation can you get that much information, referring to me? How can I have that kind of information and still have no way of functioning even reasonably well on this planet?
Well, I think a lot of the information that you've come up with, it's like you're able to pull things from the Akashic record, like you were talking before. A lot of that information is there, and some people are very sensitive to it, right? And you seem
Yeah.
to be able to pull from it very easily.
Well, I used to run one of the hubs. Gives me a little bit of an upper hand.
Mhm.
But that may well be the whole kicker to it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you're definitely gifted in that way for sure, sir.
You know, I got a kick out of it. My mom asked me just before she passed. She asked me, she looks at me and she goes, and when I was telling her about some of what I've been through, she goes, you know why I believe what you're telling me? And I'm looking at her going like, no. Frankly, in my head, I'm thinking, you've been trying to tell me I'm nuts my entire life. So I just left it. No, I really don't, Mom. And she goes, because Keith, every time I've talked to you about these things, you haven't changed a word. Even when Dad and I tried coercing you into doing so. And she goes, the fact that you will stand on the words no matter what people tell you, that's why I know they're real.
Gotcha. Yep. I've noticed that too. We're talking about the Mount Olympus, and you're right back with it, and you come back to the same species that you talked about before, and so it that information is free for you to grab, and for the rest of us, we're like just sitting here stunned, trying to learn and trying to absorb everything that you're giving us.
Very true.
Well, I do my best. I just find it easier to access it when somebody's asking questions, which is why I do it that way.
That makes a lot of sense. I can understand that. If somebody was to ask me about my abduction and that sort of thing, it's very easy for me to pull from my memories upon those questions rather than from me just to recite it, situation after situation,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, I understand that all too well.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But you put me in front of a computer, I get agitated, the poor thing dies.
You know why I don't sit in front of a computer at work is because I would be asleep in about 2 minutes.
I do that with an energy drink.
Oh.
They're great. I take a 5-hour energy drink, it'll knock me out for an hour, almost to the minute.
They work on the reverse for you.
Pretty much. I mean, caffeine, I can drink a pot of it, roll over, and go to sleep.
Wow. No, not me.
No.
Yeah, it gets my heart pounding pretty hard and gets the juices going. So.
Oh, not to worry. Mine gets pounding pretty hard too, and then it stops.
We got about 90 seconds, guys.
Absolutely, Dave.
It's good times tonight, bud.
Yeah, it's been going well, especially given what I went through this morning or this afternoon. 3 tries to get my stream off the ground before we managed it. Just gonna say, now pick your lung up off the floor.
Right? Right? That's how I roll around here.
But no, I keep looking at the world going, there's got to be a way to get the message across. But so many people are bound and determined they're going to live in fear and they're going to blame everybody else for the way their life is going.
True
and
that.
in all fairness, I bought into it myself for a while.
Yeah.
All right, guys, we got 25 seconds. Thank you to Richard, CS, and Little Cam, Major Lee, Cosmic Joe. Good to have you here. Thank you for the super chats. And we're going to get going here momentarily, everybody. About 9 seconds. Here we go with the final half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Our Keith Andrews going the distance. Our good friend Lee Strauss here as well as we continue with the show. Reminder to all of you that if you missed portions of this show or others, you can always check out our free archives on YouTube or any major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. We have Lee Strauss, we have our Keith Andrews, and we're talking aliens all night long. You know, Lee, the one thing that I love about Keith, not only is he dedicated to doing this show every month, but the vast amount of knowledge that he has. And here's the thing, people. Keith doesn't study this stuff like Lee and I do. He's not reading books. He's not watching YouTube channels. He's not listening to podcasts. He's not watching what's happening in the fake disclosure movement that I like to call, what do I call it? What do I call it now?
The blank room or the one you usually use?
Mine just went blank. Weird. Okay, well, let's just continue on. Probably the aliens doing that because Keith is here, right? Confirmation. That's the word I was looking for. Confirmation. So when I see all of this, Lee, and then I see people out there trying to figure out who the hell is this guy, it's pretty amazing when you get to know him and then you understand on a personal level, like you and I can, because we've spent time with Keith. It's pretty amazing his knowledge for a guy who shouldn't know any of this, and yet he does.
Yeah, that's what I've been noticing the last couple years he's been on Spaced Out Radio. It's just he's always goes back to the same thing he's talked about before. It's like it's this knowledge is in his mind or he's pulling it from somewhere.
That's hard to understand if you don't know Keith. But once you know him on a personal level, it's pretty easy to figure out, isn't it?
It is. It is. If you listen to him month after month, a couple of times, you'll realize that he's pulling this information from somewhere. And I have no idea. Like I'll call it the Akashic record because I don't know where it's coming from, but he knows it.
Oh, I think it's great. I'm giving you this opportunity to kind of chat with him here because this is your first time really going in depth on air and on the record with him. What has caught you off guard so far about all of this, Lee, in a good way?
Well, for me, it's just the fact that he has so much knowledge about these races, and he'll bring up the same races again, and a month later, if a certain question comes up, he's always hearkening back to these different races. And it's like he's pulling the information, like I said, just from somewhere, but it's always the same stuff. It's the same alien species. It's, it's what they're doing. It's what their mannerisms are. It's what type of craft they have. It's where they're coming from. I mean, it's the same thing. He's pulling that same information like he pulled it last time, 3 months ago or whatever the case may be. So it follows along very nicely.
All right. What else do you want to know from Keith?
Well, a person had a question here, and I kind of want to ask it in a different way. The Super Ron 13 is asking, can you make a deal with them to experiment on someone else? You know, like if you're not digging what they're doing, if you're getting taken in the middle of the night or during the day, is there a way that you can tell them, hey, I don't want to be involved in this? Can you deal with somebody else, or can you take somebody else?
Technically, the answer when you ask, can I? Technically, the answer would be yes. Problem, I live by karmic law, which boils down to do unto others as you desire them to do unto you. I would not desire somebody else to exchange my place for them. You know, if they're having a bad run, I wouldn't desire to take up their spot. So I'm not about to do that for me.
Right.
However, I have been known to voice the fact that I'm not interested in doing what they're up to.
Right. But let's say somebody is really having a hard time with the abductions that they're going through. Is there something that they can do or say, or something, a ritual or whatever, just so that they don't get taken anymore?
There are ways of doing it, yes. But that's not putting them in my place, or vice versa. There was a chap years and years back. I was out on the East Coast, and there was a guy that was there that did not desire to be taken. Well, the 5 or 6 of us that were available interrupted a psychic kidnapping. Right.
Hold on.
And
What's a psychic kidnapping?
Forcible extraction of the soul from the body. Kind of like a carjacking.
Oh, wow.
Yes, it does happen.
Yeah. So like we were talking before, your soul is extracted from the body, basically.
Yeah.
And what kind of experiments would they do on a soul?
Well, given the resilience of a soul, now you're talking about taking a look at temporal displacement. Okay, when you forcibly yank somebody out of a physical body, you're causing complications on a subquantum level, and the stresses, I don't know if I want to call it technology, but their methods of measuring that kind of stress can reveal some intriguing information, not the least of which is the resilience of the soul and its ability to operate more than one type of vehicle.
Gotcha.
You know, you take a look at the questions you got, and there are answers to them. They just are so far beyond human ken for the most part that they don't make a lot of sense.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, the soul carries memory, right? So from different lifetimes, right?
Yes.
And maybe that there's energy with those memories. Is it possible that they can feed off of that energy from a soul?
Oh, there are species that literally that is their food source. So yes, it is definitively possible. That doesn't necessarily mean other people like them.
Yeah.
You know?
Right. So like a vampire basically feeding off.
Yes. Essentially correct.
Gotcha. And just because I'm interested to, getting into the weeds on this a little bit, but what kind of craft would those aliens have?
You're referring to the ones that feed on souls?
Yes.
They don't.
Oh.
They travel the ether waves on their own.
That's kind of what I was wondering.
Which means they can also get into a craft. Yeah, they aren't different. They aren't ultra-dimensional. They are simply, they vibrate at a different level whereby they can pass through the hull of said ship. And I've seen it where they wiped everybody on the ship out. Nobody knew what was happening.
Wow. Wow. So they're basically a species that doesn't have a body as we know it.
Bingo. See, all bodies are not humanoid. As a matter of fact, humanoid is one of the rarest bodies. But you're talking about a nebulous cloud. Okay. Star Trek did an episode years ago, the original Star Trek, where this non-physical entity entered the ship and then went about killing people. But all it was doing was trying to feed.
Yeah, I think I remember that episode actually. So would you say that maybe 85% of the alien species out there are this nebulous type being?
I would not put a percentage on it.
Okay.
I've only run into a few that are non-physical. Okay. Most of the ones I run into are physical, primarily because I suspect I've taken a physical form this lifetime, although I deal with the non-physicals.
Gotcha. So how many different types of Draco are there? I'm just wondering.
I can tell you there are approximately a dozen that I call reptilian. Okay, that I've cataloged already. As far as how many there are in total, I have no idea.
And do you think that the majority of those are negative?
No, the majority are neutral. They're just simply carnivores.
Okay. Gotcha.
They don't eat people out of malice. They eat people out of necessity or nutrition.
Gotcha.
But I mean, you take a look at the Zotar, they're reptilian, but you don't have to worry about them eating somebody. They're only 6 inches tall.
Could we possibly see like one of those in, here on Earth, and it just looks like a normal lizard to us? Or is that something that we would be able to recognize right away as something that's not from Earth?
Most humans don't recognize a lot of things that aren't from here. So technically, is it possible? Yeah. But the reality is they will probably look like a simple salamander.
I gotcha.
For instance, you take a look at the leopard salamander. Okay, now it is a terran animal. Okay, but Zotar can look like one.
Gotcha. So there's shapeshifters a little bit then?
No, they just look like salamanders.
I gotcha. Okay. And since we're on this, go ahead.
Basically, there's a company out here in Canada called Telus, a phone company, that has a little gecko, right, that they use as a mascot. Well, the Zotar look like a gecko, except they're bipedal.
Gotcha. Huh. Are we able to talk with them, interact with them, or they interact with us at all?
The short answer would be yes, you can. Okay. You do have to understand their linguistics are based on they've got their own evolution, as it were. And this is why the Reptilians built the hybridization program, is because you can build a computer where you punch in words from one language, it gives you the outcome. But it won't tell you the meaning. Okay. And humans on the whole all think the same way. What I mean by that, either I hold this out to you, okay? Clearly, if you know your drinks at all, that's Coke. Okay. But if I'm holding out this drink to you, you may not read the label, but I go here, I'm offering you, and just about every human will do the same thing. I'm offering you a drink. Now, Lord knows if I'm saying Coke, is that the name of the bottle? Is it the name of the liquid? Is it the color? Right. The off-worlders won't know this. And that's where the hybridization program comes in.
Gotcha. And with the hybridization program that's currently going on, are there aliens out there that just travel the universe looking for the best parts of different species to put into themselves?
Put into themselves? Technically, the answer would be yes. But what you're referring to, I think you're a little off track. Like
Okay.
if you're asking, are they trying to evolve by absorbing somebody else? There is only one race that does that. And that's I believe it's the Zeron. I keep mixing up whether it's the Zeron or the Xenon. That's why I keep this book handy. And Xenon. They literally go around looking at different bionomes in order to figure out the best way to evolve their own species. But they don't take them. It's not like they pull a bionome apart.
Right.
They just they do their own program of examination in order to figure out the biological mechanism so they can enhance their robotic bodies. Okay, make modifications to it. But these guys rely, and this is why we have the ongoing conversation with them. They would like to eliminate the bio. Okay, their whole idea is we're better than they are, so we should wipe them out. I got talking to them one day and went, guys, you're using the biological evolution as a marker to give you ideas on how to improve your own body. Well, yeah. I says, well, don't you see a problem with wiping out the bios? Oh, never thought of that. You know, and this is just one of these little conversations I end up with these guys.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not, unfortunately, I'm not getting to the leaders, but then of course the leaders of their world, of their species, aren't in the area. You know, so we're looking at little bits and pieces, tiny groups that go, wait a minute. But that's where a revolution starts, or where an evolution of socioeconomic understanding comes in. Is you start by talking to the little people.
Gotcha. So one other question on kind of this same thing we're talking about with the geckos. I've heard people say this a lot, that they believe that the octopus is probably an alien species that was put here on Earth.
Well, I guess we could call it that. Accidentally released is much more accurate. They belong to the Udina. The Udina are actually a hedopod. If you saw the movie Arrival,
Mm-hmm.
you remember those critters? Those are the Udina. The octopi that are here belong to them originally.
I gotcha.
But they're what would amount to cats.
And so it's just like an offshoot of their species then.
That's kind of like saying a cat, which is a pet, is an offshoot of humanity. You gotta remember, an octopus has 8 legs. The hedopod has only 7.
Okay.
You know, the Udina has only 7.
Well,
but they do come from the same aquatic world.
2 minutes to go here, gentlemen, before we have to call it the night. Lee, any further questions for Keith?
Let me see here real quick. I know that people are having all kinds of questions. Is there any other types of alien species that have offshoots here on Earth?
Yeah. Well, technically they're not a species, but the bear knocked in literally looks like a mushroom, like a button mushroom.
Are they mobile?
Pardon?
Are they mobile? Are they able to walk around then? Or?
Oh yeah, they absolutely are. But if you take a look at the Chitawari, it's a Muldock pet.
Gotcha.
There's a number of others, but in a minute and a half, we're going to have a problem.
Yeah, because now I want to get into it.
But I will tell you this, Lee. If you ever do want me on your show, all you got to do is drop a line.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll get together for sure. Tim James and I would love to have you on.
And for people who don't know,
Absolutely.
Element 15, the show that Lee hosts, is a YouTube spot on our YouTube channel where you could go on. It's every Friday night from 8 p.m. Pacific to 9 p.m. Pacific, right before we come on the air. Gentlemen, I want to say thank you for coming on Spaced Out Radio. Keith, thank you for going the distance. And we will be talking to you next month. Lee, it is always good to have you here. Hard to believe, man. We are literally just over a month and a half away from our trip to Vegas for the SOR hangout session with Merle and Dave. Extra small Lee Strauss will be there as well. It's going to be so much fun, and hopefully you guys can make it there with us as well. And hello to Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal, rocking in the background with little brother and Bumblefoot is the official music of Space Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar, God himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at work, at home, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, Elga, Facebook, Spreaker, LinkedIn, Space Travelers Club, and on X, hashtag Spaced Out Radio.
I know you're out there somewhere.
Remember, this show is copyright with Spaced Out Radio and SMR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends,
make a mistake. We're watching.
we own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Blue Train has docked for the night. Soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night, everybody. All right, we're clear, boys.
And we have quiet.
Well, I've got to get up at 4 a.m. to head over to the peninsula. So
You're a peninsula. If you took your hat off, you'd have a peninsula there.
I don't know if I have to get up at 4, but the odds are I will be.
Oh, I'm sorry, Lee. You're more like an archipelago. Easy archipelago.
Like an island in the mist.
We're gonna make once you get everything switched over on the business, we're gonna make archipelago T-shirts for you.
Oh my gosh.
Uh-huh.
No, Friday's my favorite night of the week for sure. Love it, love it.
Hey, Lee,
Well,
sure you're safe, okay?
Say again?
Make sure you're safe.
Oh, I will. Yeah. I got my pointy stick with me, so
Good.
we will be safe for sure. Where we're going, there's been recent activity. So, a week ago, basically. But anyway, Keith, man, I'm so glad that I got to hang with you tonight. And we'll have to have you on the show for sure.
Yeah. I'm enjoyed it tonight as well. That said, give me a buzz. Let me know when. I just need to know ahead of time, because if I don't know, by 10 o'clock, I tank. But that has nothing to do with getting up at 2 o'clock in the morning half the time.
Yeah. I bet. All right, gents. I will see you, Dave, next weekend or next Friday.
Sure.
And I'll be talking to you, Keith.
Absolutely. Thanks again, Dave.
All right, buddy. Take care. Good night, guys.
Good night.
Take care. Take care, Lee.
You too.
Right. There goes Keith. There goes Lee. And you guys are stuck with me now. Isn't that nice? Yeah, isn't that nice? I had like an hour off there. It was great. Publish. All right, everybody. I'm going to call it the night too, because I'm going to bed. I am tired. Don't forget, we got Sweet Robbie G this weekend. And make sure you guys go have some fun with him, because he's always a blast. Thank you tonight to Richard, CS, Mel WD40, Little Cam, Lee, and Cosmic Joe for the super chats. You guys have a great weekend. I will see you on Monday, where my guest will be Gary Turner, G.O. Turner, and we will be talking about crop circles. It's going to be a lot of fun. Talk to you then, everybody. Good night.
Stay healthy, my friend.
You too.
If you need bail money, give me a call.
Always, Dad. Take care.
You too.